Hi. In today's video, I'm going to discuss about cause and effect diagram because whenever we are working on any projects, there are multiple risks which are involved in it. That risk can be a schedule part, that risk can be a budget, that risk can be an operational risk or a regulatory risk, all that. So understanding what are the different risks which are involved when we are working on application development. At the same time, eliminating the risks is what something which is important, especially for any application development, that too in the context of business analyst role and other roles and all that. So how majorly for a business analyst as well as for the project management team, understanding about the kind of risk which is involved in it and how to eliminate the risk is what something we do. This is for that reason, generally there is a diagram which is called fishbone diagram, which normally we use it in regular intervals. So for that, this is what generally this diagram is majorly useful of, right? So here I'm just going to explain you on a high level note, right? So how these potential project issues from the context of the designing followed by the testing, budget, quality, scope, schedule, right? So at the same time, programming, listening, all that. The first one about the designing part wherein we need to know, right? So what are the design we are going to do, right? So because when we want to make any kind of design changes in the existing project, so wherein fearing over the change of the design, what we are doing, right? So at the same time, the design may not be user friendly. At the same time, it may not be mobile friendly, right? So these are the potential areas of risk which is normally involved, right? So fear of change or may not be user friendly or else not mobile friendly. These are all the different areas where we see when it comes to the risk is involved, right? So if you want to eliminate the project risk and all in the design level, this is what something which we may come across. At the same time, when it comes to the quality point of view, wherein we need to understand about the defect rate, because rate of defect, which is majorly focusing on it. At the same time, when customer not satisfied with the product, right? So because quality deliverables, end of the day has to be ensured to the customer for sure, right? So if you are not delivering that to an extent possible, then there is no value for that. So this is also another important element when we are working on the quality of the project. Next, when we talk about the budget part, so there are possibilities where the budget may be in high staff turnover. Budget will be very high level. At the same time, we may require for need of additional cost, right? So when there is an additional cost, which is something interconnected with, may require some additional staff or fluctuations of hardware and software, what we want to use. Because if you are developing an on-premise application, infrastructural cost and infrastructural challenges are included in it. When we are moving towards cloud environment, the reason why we are moving towards cloud environment, due to this reason, when we are moving towards cloud environment, we don't see these difficulties because cloud environment has an advantage where we can we don't require to maintain the infrastructure even for development as well as for the usage purpose. So the operational cost as well as investment and operational cost in context to the infrastructure will come down. So these are the additional areas wherein we'll be focusing more on. Next, due to the budget as well as the design level changes, there is a possibility scope creep. That's where generally scope creep is more important, because scope creep means what are the scope which is required for a project to develop. Because when we are developing the project, we need to put scope in the project, which is important, right? So if deviation of scope happens, automatically that impacts on the timelines, budget, etc. This is where generally scope creep happens. So we have to make sure not to happen this. At the same time, whatever the desired features we are trying to identify may have some low value, right? This is also one of the prominent aspect we have to consider, right? This is where generally scope come into picture. Next was schedule, right? So whatever the schedule are we planning, right? So project schedule I'm talking about, right? So if you are unfortunately, if you are meeting the deadlines of the schedule, what we have planned, the reason why project manager or project management role majorly focusing on the schedule point of view. Because as long as we have not planned the schedule properly based on the manpower, based on the complexity of the project, etc., then these schedules may have some difficulty in maintaining it. So skipping of schedules will also be one of the potential project issues which we may come across. Next, testing part, right? So when system testing fails, as per the requirement, if it was not performing well, right? So automatically system failure might be taken place. So system fails testing. At the same time, whatever the inadequate feedback from the testing we have received so far, all these things comes under the testing perspective. Next, when it comes to the programming part, right? So for example, when there are some legacy code which we are going through, right? So when we are transforming from legacy applications to the new application, we'll assume that the legacy code was developed way back for a very long time back, right? So the kind of application programming what they have used was very old one. So if for that, what happens normally, there is a possibility that lack of documentation for a particular code may not be available. So if there is no availability of documentation we have available in context to the legacy code documentation and all, this is also one of the core and important element which we have to be focused more on it. At the same time, high coupling, right? So high coupling of the complexity which is involved in it. So that is also one of the core and important element we have to see, followed by duplication of the modules which we have to be considered with. Because when it reaches to the state where duplication of modules will be taken place, the effort will becoming more, and whatever the desired implementation we want to develop will be very less in percentage. So due to the duplication of modules, there is a high probability where application may not perform well, right? So effort may increase, right? So which may increases the potential project issues what is required. Next, one of the major area where, especially for the role of a business analyst, we need to understand about the misunderstanding of business. Because the reason why, whenever being a business analyst, whenever we are working on, it is always important for us to understand the business functionality, right? So the kind of objective goals, what strategies, what tactics. So this sort of understanding is essentially required. So if you are failing in misunderstanding the business, then whatever the desired outcome we are about to develop may impact on this, right? So this is where generally we need to be focused. At the same time, there is a possibility due to the communication breakdown, right? So lack of communication among the team members and all, right? So if you are failing among the team members or maybe the stakeholders, both external as well as internal, that also may leads to potential project issues which may be involved in it. So these are the areas whenever we are working on the project, especially whenever we try to eliminate the kind of project risk, right? So to identify what are the possible and potential project risk which we may be facing while we are working on the project, especially for business analyst roles, even for the project manager roles, right? So at the same time, even of course, it is even required and known better for even for the development team also, so that they'll have an overall understanding over the what are the possible risks which are involved, which could be involved, and how this can be managed, etc. All that. So this is all about this video, which is also called as a fishbone diagram, right? So this is all about this video. If you have any questions, if you have any queries in regard to that, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.